everyone. My name is Joan Fishman. I'm president of the Wilmette Public Library District Board, and now the time is 6:30, and the Board of Library Trustees regular meeting will commence. Today is Tuesday, May 19th, 2026. And may we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Trustee Biederman?
Here.
Trustee Cox is not present. Trustee DiLorenzo, present. Trustee Fishman?
Present.
Trustee Moman?
Present.
Trustee Pasco?
Present.
Trustee Senate?
Present.
Thank you. We'll now move on to review of our draft minutes from the review of our April 21st, 2026 regular board meeting. And are there any additions or corrections to those minutes? All right, hearing none, may we have a motion to approve, please?
I move approval of the April 21st, 2026 regular board meeting minutes as presented.
Thank you, Trustee Molman. And is there a second, please?
I second.
Okay, Trustee Pasco, thank you, has seconded that. May we have a roll call, please?
Yes.
Yes.
Trustee Biederman?
Yes.
Trustee Cox, not present. Trustee DiLorenzo, yes. Trustee Moman?
Yes.
Trustee Pasco?
Yes.
Trustee Senate?
Yes.
Trustee Fishman?
Yes, thank you. So our minutes from the April 21st, 2026 regular board meeting as presented is passed. Has been passed. Thank you. Now it's time for public comment. Meeting attendees who have signed in to our visitor public comment registration form and who wish to address the Wilmette Public Library District Board of Trustees may do so here. Please state your name, please.
Good evening, I'm Bob Lepkowski. I have been truant in the past two events. I'm a 30-year resident of Wilmette, and I'm here to support the board and the staff in their decisions about what materials should be part of the collection. I was truant in two cases because host of excuses, one legitimate, one not. I believe your March meeting that's on the day of the primary, and I was working as election judge in April. I just forgot. Sorry. Thanks for your good work.
Thank you for your comments. I just would note that we did not hold our meeting on Election Day because the Governor Pritzker said we should, any municipal entity should not hold a meeting. So no scolding by any means, but we did not have it. We had it the week later. So you missed on. There you go. Well, we appreciate your comments.
But you're here today, so
you're here today.
That's
Very
important.
good. Are there any presentations? Seeing none, we'll move on to our treasurer's report. And Trustee Biederman, please.
Thank you. I will summarize the April 26 bookkeeping report as prepared by Sandra. Highlights of on the revenue side, we had $2,069,000 in property taxes received, and that's probably going to total the lion's share of what we're expecting. We had $65,600 in Kenilworth service and administrative fees from the Kenilworth Public Library District, $35,500 in general fund interest, and another $6,252 in replacement taxes. We did receive $22,000 in general fund interest and just under $12,000 in special reserve fund interest, and another $1,400 for our interest on the portion of the MaxSafe account. We don't track expenses on a monthly basis in the same way, but we are at trending at 78% of our expense budget, and 83% of the year has passed. Some notable expenses, exceptions that Sandra called out: periodicals, equipment, computer maintenance, vehicle, library vehicle expenses. Some of these are similar to other months. Special reserve fund expenses were at just under 65% of annual projections, $161,005. Expenses over $10,000: Amazon, Overdrive, Computer View, Cooperative Computer Services, Wellness Insurance Network, and also payments for our special reserve fund expenses and library furniture international. This excludes payroll, which is on a straight line. Net April year-to-date gain loss is a gain of $1,136,000. However, that gain will be eroded over the next over the course of the remaining months of the fiscal year to bring it down close to where we budgeted our P&L from last year. So it's sort of an artificial gain right now. It's a point in time. There have been no changes and no Fed changes which would affect the yields on our newly purchased CDs. So those are holding steady at 3.5%. So that's the entire that's the summary of the Treasurer's report, summarizing the information in your packets.
Thank you.
That's all.
Good. Any questions for Trustee Biederman, excuse me, I'm sorry. All right, thank you.
I have an update that I can share relative to Cook County. So as we've noted in prior meetings, the library's tax distributions were delayed this fiscal year, and our collection rate is about 5% less than what we're expecting. A coalition of Cook County library administrators have come together to gather and analyze the details from our individual agency tax collection distribution reports, and to look at all public libraries in Cook County to verify the receipts of our agencies, but without the accompanying deposit records and reports from the county, we cannot accurately confirm whether the money that is still outstanding to 13 libraries that are significantly behind in their distributions are correct, which leads to some speculation. So this coalition has been really applying more pressure to the Cook County Treasury Department to learn more about this. We're one of those 13 libraries who is significantly behind in the distributions. Like I said, we're about 5% behind what we should be receiving. So we did receive confirmation of receipt of our request for inquiry to analyze that today from the CFO of Cook County. So they're going to be looking at those funds, and we'll be investigating and determining whether or not there's additional funds that are going to be coming our way. And I'll update you in June with an additional status report on this to keep you apprised.
Thank you. Although this begs the question, how were those 13 excluded?
That is the question.
Okay.
We're not really sure, but I think there were 40, 50 some libraries that are affected by this. Some received more, some received less, some received about what they were expecting to. We were amongst those 13 who received significantly less than what we were anticipating. We typically are pretty conservative in our budgeting here, so to be 5% behind is pretty significant when our collection rate has averaged about 102% over the course of the last couple of years. So we're requesting further analysis.
Thank you. And are there any questions about bills and salaries that we had in our packet? All right. If there are no questions or concerns, we now, I'll ask for a approval of bills and salaries check detail for April 2026. Is there a motion to approve?
I move approval of the bills and salaries check detail for April 2026 as presented.
Thank you. Trustee Pasco, is there a second, please?
Second.
Okay. We have motion from Trustee Pasco and seconded by Trustee Biederman. Trustee DiLorenzo, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Trustee Biederman?
Yes.
Trustee Cox is not present. Trustee DiLorenzo, yes. Trustee Mulman?
Yes.
Trustee Pasco?
Yes.
Trustee Senate?
Yes.
Trustee Fishman?
Yes, thank you. The bills and salaries check detail for April 2026 as presented has passed. Thank you. Now we'll move on to our action items. And the first action item is ordinance number, did I miss something?
I got that wrong on the document. The ordinance
Oh,
number is correct on that agenda, but not on your suggested motions document. So just note that.
and could you ordinance number?
It is correct on that agenda, but not on
not
that
this one.
document.
Okay. 2023/24-211?
Oh, they're both wrong.
They're both
Yeah,
incorrect.
it's
Yeah.
It's correct on the cover page of the document. The correct number of the ordinance under consideration this evening is 2025/26-217, fiscal year 25-26, ordinance 217. An ordinance setting the schedule for regular meetings of the board. Sorry for that
That's
error.
okay. Not a problem.
It's not 2026, 27?
It's in this
It's
year.
approved this year.
For next year.
Right, it's 2026, right?
It's this fiscal year, 25-26.
Oh, I see. Got it, okay, sorry.
All right, so
I see.
by
Yes,
by
yes.
point of introduction, I'll just
By
go
point of
ahead and
introduction, right
continue
in.
here. Under
Thank you, Director
consideration
Austin.
right now in the packet is ordinance 2025/26-217, an ordinance setting the schedule of regular meetings of the board for fiscal year 26-27. The number is because we're approving it within this fiscal year, however, it is for next fiscal year. The cover sheet reflects some background work that we do each year, which is to determine whether our board meeting would potentially fall on any of these holidays, and the library will not be impacted by the schedule of these holidays relative to our plan to meet, as we typically have done, on the third Tuesday of each month. There is yet another error in your packet, however, on the ordinance document itself, and we have updated this on the copy that you will sign this evening. On the ordinance itself for December of '26, the date says December 16. It should say December 15. We were one day off on that one, not 2 years.
Okay.
So the dates otherwise are all for the third Tuesday of each month, which is what we do by tradition. Everything else in your ordinance is as it has been for the last many years. Are there any questions about the ordinance setting the schedule for our meetings for next fiscal year? This is the most we've ever talked about it.
Definitely, definitely. Normally, it's just rolling right off, but thank you for your corrections and explanation. Thank you. Any questions for Director Austin? All right, seeing none, then is there a motion to approve ordinance number 2025/26-217?
I move approval of ordinance number 2023/24.
No,
No, oh, this is wrong. Is this right? Is it- Okay, wait a
It-
second.
it's-
All right, no, I'm going to take it right from here.
Yeah.
Ordinance 2025-26-217.
correct.
The ordinance is for setting the schedule for regular meetings of the board for the coming fiscal year.
Correct. Thank you. Trustee Biederman, is there a second, please?
I second.
Okay, just second by Trustee DiLorenzo. Trustee DiLorenzo, may we have a roll call, please?
Yes. Trustee Biederman?
Yes.
Trustee Cox is not present. Trustee DiLorenzo, yes. Trustee Molman,
Yes.
Trustee Pasco?
Yes.
Trustee Senate?
Yes.
Trustee Fishman?
Yes. Thank you. So the approval of ordinance number 2025/26-217, setting the schedule for regular meetings of the board as corrected and as presented, has passed. Thank you. Now we'll move on to our second action item, which is the annual decision to participate in the public library non-resident services program. And now turn to Director Austin, please.
Okay, so under the state administrative code, each public library needs to make an annual decision about whether to participate in offering non-resident fee cards. Wilmette Public Library has always offered this service. Anyone who wishes to purchase a library card for Wilmette Public Library District may do so, and we must determine how we would charge for those. And the methodology that Wilmette Public Library District has used historically is called the tax bill method, which essentially means that the same rate of calculation that we use for our resident taxpayers is the rate that we would apply for anyone who would be applying for a library card who lives outside of our library district. So what we are asking you to do this evening is to continue to follow this tax bill methodology for calculating those fees and renew that service again for this coming fiscal year. I will add that we currently do not have any such non-resident fee cards on our record. But if we did, this
Would
is
this-
how we would calculate this.
This would be for somebody who is also not in a library in this area, because of course you can use your library card from another city, another library here. This would be somebody who's just past the boundaries of our very large system.
If they are in an unincorporated area that is unserved by a public library in the state of Illinois, this would be the methodology by which we would calculate their fee.
Okay.
This would be the same method that we would apply for someone who, say, lives in Evanston and also wants to buy a Wilmette Public Library card in order to enjoy the exact same benefits of a Wilmette Public Library card holder. We have offered that to someone who has requested that, and then they realized that that was an exorbitant amount of money to,
It's 15% of monthly rent.
that is correct.
I'd
Each
also
month?
like,
Each month?
That's right.
So if your rent is $1,000 a month, it's $150 a month.
That's correct.
Okay.
just to add, there's about 1 million people in Illinois that do not live in a library district. So there's efforts underway to try to find a way for some of those people to have access to a public library. The community colleges of Illinois do allow people to get public library cards in that way. And I think there might be something for children under 18.
Yes, there is.
Have we ever offered this type to anyone? Have we ever had anybody partake?
In the time that I've been at Wilmette Library, I'm not aware of any participants.
Well, that's a good thing, because that means that most people have access to it and are getting it through their local library and using us as part of a larger group library. So that's good.
And we also have the Kenilworth Public Library District, which is
Sure. But they
a
are
district in
incorporated.
contract that has been incorporated in order to not have this be a situation for that unincorporated area. Okay.
Good questions. Good, thank you. All right, is there a motion to approve the annual decision to participate in the Public Library Non-Resident Services Program via the tax bill method as presented?
I move approval of the annual decision to participate in the Public Library Non-Resident Services Program via the tax bill method as presented.
Thank you. Trustee Molman, is there a second, please?
I second.
Thank you. Trustee Senate. All right, may we have a roll call, please?
Trustee Biederman?
Yes.
Trustee Cox is not present. Trustee DiLorenzo, yes. Trustee Molman,
Yes.
Trustee Pasco?
Yes.
Trustee Senate?
Yes.
Trustee Fishman?
Yes, thank you. The motion to approve the annual decision to participate in the Public Library Non-Resident Services Program via the tax bill method has been passed. Thank you. We'll now move on to our discussion items, and I'll turn this over to Director Austin and Trustee Biederman as our treasurer, and to discuss our May 11th, 2026 Finance Committee meeting.
Would you like to begin, or would you like?
Sure. We met, the Finance Committee met last week, and we reviewed a number of the expense categories. Director Austin brought in a very detailed report, which is included in this, with the narrative of each category for what their reasoning behind coming up with a budget, and it was very detailed. And I can tell that a lot of effort was put in by a lot of staff members. So that made it, that gave good color to the decisions behind it. We reviewed, the draft budget is summarized in the packet in, towards the back, with the first draft, which summarizes it. And as before, we are projecting a deficit of about $125,000, which is in line with what we've done in the past. And I know that the levy is projected at 105%, is that correct? standard 105%, which is what we always go for without any type of referendum. So that's going to continue. Those were the main things. There was some discussion on personnel and open positions and discussion about the future of those positions and some adjustments that Anthony discussed. But bottom line was that, the report itself details most of it. Should we bring up any of the other issues that were called out?
I have a brief presentation I can share, kind of summarizing our meeting and get into a little bit more of the numbers and detail that we discussed, if you'd like.
That would be great.
Okay.
You've got it in a summarized way.
All right, so as Treasurer Biederman noted, the Finance Committee met on Monday, May 11th to explore the first draft of the proposed fiscal year 26-27 operating budget, and 6 of our 7 trustees attended along with 3 staff members and 2 members of the public. And we had an extended open session as well as a closed session to provide a detailed review of the personnel budget. So I structured the meeting as follows. We began by outlining the outcomes of our expenditure budget, reflecting on the library's consistent improvement in its key performance indicators that have in recent years led the library to being recognized as one of the highest performing libraries in its budget category and being named a 5-star library for its print and digital circulation, door counts, program attendance, public computer use, Wi-Fi sessions, and active registered cardholders. Our goal of this budget proposal is to sustain our operations and to provide a consistent experience and build upon those successes. So then we took a look back at our most recent long-range financial forecasting model to assess our current financial position relative to our projections. And we confirmed that our assumptions for both income and expenditures as compared to the general fund status relative to the levy. So basically what the project was that we did last fall when we did our levy, we were able to confirm that the assumptions there, projecting a 4% increase on the personnel line and 2% in operations, made sense, and confirmed via the levy edit report that what we had requested last fall was what was going to be extended to the library in our tax year 2025 distributions. As I noted earlier, it is difficult for us right now without the distribution receipts for us to determine which of the dollars we've received in this fiscal year are actually part of the levy that we passed in November of 25. But like I said, I hope to have clarity for you from the county here shortly to share more about that. But as we said earlier, we're assuming that we're going to be collecting everything this fiscal year. So we then evaluated our performance for the first 10 months of this fiscal year, so what we just reported on a moment ago in the treasurer's report, which is that our income is at 95% of the budget and our expenses are at 78% of the budget, and that we are currently projecting that this fiscal year, our total expenses by June 30th will be about 98% of what we had projected. You may recall that this time last year, back in June of 25, when the board approved this budget, we did approve deficit spending of $156,000. And that while the revenues that we received are about 5% down, we're going to expect that we will receive about 100% of that. And so therefore, we're currently estimating that we're going to close this fiscal year with a balanced budget with little to no deficit spending at year end. That said, we did do this the year prior, and we're not confident that we can deliver those results year over year. But we are projecting again that there will be another deficit next year, as Trustee Biederman had just summarized. So broadly, the first draft of the fiscal year 26-27 budget projects that our general fund income is going to increase 3.5%, which is consistent with what we asked for in the levy, and that we are proposing approximately a 3% increase in our general fund expenses for next year, about a $200,000 increase there, which means that we're projecting that expenses will exceed income by about $125,000 or 2% over this current fiscal year. We will align with our fund balance policy of keeping 6 months to 1 year of operating revenue in reserve, despite that deficit spending. In sum, for the fiscal year, materials and services is essentially flat. Our personnel expenses have increased approximately 4%, primarily due to the fact of health insurance, and our operating expenses have been, reduced 2%. While not part of the budget for the general fund, we also have a special reserve fund, and we're projecting approximately $325,000 of spending in the special reserve fund. And we also noted that our annual investment revenues on the special reserve fund are averaging about $215,000. So we're only going to be spending down a small portion of the special reserve with what we've proposed. So as I noted a second ago, the biggest challenge for this coming fiscal year is that our employee health insurance premiums are projecting about a 15% increase and are slated to approach $1 million of expenditures of our total operating costs this year, and that's about 15% of our budget. Despite significant efforts to contain costs elsewhere, this line item proved the most difficult element for us to manage in trying to balance the budget. While we'll continue to analyze our options, we are already in a 20-plus agency consortium insurance pool that has largely been able to manage increase and leverage overall cost savings to its members over the years. So we're not confident that we're going to be able to bring those costs down, but we do have some other strategies that we may be able to employ going forward. The insurance year runs on the calendar year, so we're still kind of just projecting what it's going to look like as we go into 27. So as I said a second ago, while we're able to ultimately balance the budget with a surplus in fiscal year 24-25, while planning over $300,000 in deficit spending that fiscal year, and that we're projecting a balanced budget with no deficit spending when we planned $150,000 of deficit spending this year, and that we're projecting an even smaller deficit for fiscal year 26-27, this year-end budget miracle, I guess I'll call it, is something that we cannot count upon year over year. And as many of the bargaining chips that we've used and alternate approaches that we've made may be exhausted at this point, and it may be difficult for us to forestall deficit spending in the years ahead, which has been forecasted in the long-range financial model. That said, the board and staff have taken a really hard look at our operating budget this year, and we've incorporated some new strategies in addition to our regular methodology. So the regular methodology that Wilmette Public Library District has been employing to try to balance our budget include the following. In the past several years, we have been able to consistently pass our maximum levy annually. We are aggressively managing our investment income. We are trying to efficiently manage our cash flow and transfers so that our money can remain in interest-bearing accounts as long as possible before we pay our bills. We're trying to capitalize on our credit card points and benefits. We're fostering and maintaining business partnerships that are advantageous to the library district. We'll continue to negotiate and renegotiate contracts with favorable terms for the library. We'll continue to develop and maximize our Kenilworth contract to the greatest benefit of our Kenilworth participants and the library. We'll continue to engage our friends and work towards establishing a foundation. We're going to reevaluate our approach to donations and try to solicit them further. Prioritize our strategic goals, to align our resources to the highest return on investment, and when necessary, freeze development and reduce or sunset services as appropriate. So this year, in addition to those strategies, the board requested that we provide a closer analysis of our personnel commitments, and recognizing that staff has already demonstrated that it cannot further reduce its workforce without structural change, staff revisited its study of post-COVID operating hours in an effort to determine if we're allocating our staffing resources appropriately. And so we've been collectively working on preparing a data report for our lowest performing shift of the week, and for over a year we've been studying the data for our Friday evenings. Our Friday evenings have been the biggest aberration since we've come back post-COVID. We've got our lowest performance in those 3 hours of the day, and so we wanted to reappraise that. Anecdotally, we've been observing that staff typically outnumbers the public between the hours of 7 and 9 p.m. on most Friday evenings, but we have noted from our statistics that we're seeing circulation drop off after 6 p.m., that our service desk transactions drop off after 6 p.m., that phone calls to the library on Friday nights drop off after 6 p.m., that door counts drop off sharply after 6 p.m., and that our quarterly program attendance tends to skew door counts on Friday evenings because we have popular music events that will happen once a quarter on Fridays. But otherwise, our program attendance on Fridays has been low enough to the point where we don't offer programs as much on Friday evenings. And we've also been noting that our students are generally not using the building for study on Friday evenings. So based upon all of that information, we wanted to compare our results with our peers. So we compared our operating hours to 15 peer libraries, all the way north to south from Lake Forest down to Lincolnwood and as far west as Park Ridge back up to Lincolnshire and everything in between. And what we found is that only 3 of the 15 libraries that we surveyed are open 9 to 9 on Fridays, and that of those 3 libraries, Wilmette has the smallest population served by almost half. We also noted that at a 73-hour work week, Wilmette has the second highest operating hours of the group, with an average of 69 hours being offered by those 15 libraries. Evanston, with the largest population served, also has the lowest operating hours of the group with 64 hours. So after comparing all of this information and looking at a color-coded chart that made it easy for us to analyze the information, we came to the conclusion that the benefits of updating the library's operating hours to 9 to 6 would accomplish the following. It would allocate our staff schedules to more in-demand service hours. It would shift approximately $25,000 in annual labor costs without adding additional staff. It would establish clear service priorities. It would make our hours be consistent with our peer agencies. It would promote safety and energy efficiency. It would radically improve staff morale. No one wants to work on Friday night. And few users, we think, would notice or be impacted by this change given all the statistical data that we had gathered. So as a result of this analysis, staff recommended joining the overwhelming majority of our peer agencies and adopting the operating hours of 9 to 6 p.m. on Fridays beginning this fall. And the committee and board built unanimous support for this proposal at the meeting that we had last Monday on May 11th. So the proposed operating budget that is before us this evening is incorporating this assumption as part of the personnel budget. The program budget, which, as I alluded to a moment ago, remains unaffected by this change. Our really popular evening music programs will continue. We'll just move them to a different evening of the week. I will pause there. Are there any comments about the Friday proposal or anything that we've talked about thus far about the proposed budget?
Well, thank you for your evaluation, and anyone who has popped in for whatever reason would see that it's very quiet here on Fridays. And I know people have said, well, are there students studying? But I haven't noticed, and I don't have students at home that would study here on Friday nights. And it does seem like there's more staff than patrons.
Very often that appears to be the case.
And I think, as you said, popular, perhaps, music programs is easy enough to change to probably daytime. I was at a Sunday program, and it was very well attended Sunday afternoons. So I think people would welcome being out in the daytime rather than at night. So I think it's a good.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so the other topics that we discussed, and this will wrap up my presentation of the draft budget here, is that on the personnel side, which we recognize as the largest portion of the operating budget and was the primary subject of our closed session, we wanted to note that on the surface in the packet, what you're seeing is that for the 3 sections of the personnel budget, it appears that we are not offering a cost of living increase commensurate with CPI. And I want to add clarity about that. So the librarian's salary in the document shows a 2.5% total increase over the current fiscal year. The non-librarian's salaries are showing a 2.6% total increase over the current fiscal year. And custodial salaries are showing a 8.4% total decrease over the current fiscal year. That said, as we demonstrated in closed session in a line-by-line analysis of all the positions in the library. We inventoried each position and each current vacancy, and we proposed a budget that includes a 3.5% across-the-board cost of living increase for all staff. In closed session, the board discussed the merits and challenges of higher and lower cost of living adjustments, but ultimately built consensus to advance the draft that's before us this evening. The 3% cost of living would have reduced the total budget that was proposed by about $16,000, and a 4% cost of living increase would increase the total by about $14,000. But we lined it up right down the middle with the 3.5, which is commensurate with what we offered last year. So those are the assumptions that were built into the packet, and we didn't get into a lot of detail in the narrative about that, but I wanted to make sure everyone was clear about what we're looking at here. Are there any other items about the general fund that you wanted to pull out or add additional discussion to in the draft budget?
Okay.
Okay, so that's the general fund. The last thing I will mention is that while it is not part of the general fund operating budget, the library is planning some capital expenditures out of the special reserve fund for this next fiscal year. As you know, the special reserve fund is comprised of surplus funds that had been previously transferred from the general fund. And of course, over the last several years, we have been doing deficit spending or near deficit spending, so we haven't been having a surplus there. Any increases that we're seeing in the special reserve fund is coming primarily from, well, exclusively from our investment of those CDs. And at this time, the current estimated special reserve fund balance is approximately $6.2 million, which is up 5% from this time in 2025 when it was $5.8 million, despite the fact that we have spent $162,000 in special reserve fund dollars this year on some projects. So we're really just spending our investment income when it comes to the special reserve fund. This year, what we're proposing to do is a cost of about $325,000 to pull some priority items that were planned for fiscal years 27 and 28 from the 2020 Capital Reserve Study, which were forecasted at that time to total $1.4 million. So the couple small projects that we're proposing to work on this year for priority are a revitalization of the staff entrance and replacement of the walk-off carpeting in that space that's been in there for over 30 years. The planned update and replacement of the firewall and server uninterrupted power supplies. That's an every 7 to 10 year project, and we're due for that. And then the other major project is one that has been affecting us more lately, and that is a capital improvement maintenance plan project for the elevator revitalization. And we're estimating that this work will come in at about $250,000. So very briefly, I'm just going to give a bit of an update about this. The lifespan of our elevator system pumps, controls, and finishes is about 25 years. Elevator B, which is the elevator that's here on the east side of the building, was installed in 1988, and elevator A was installed in 1978. Elevator B is a Westinghouse unit, and that company ceased operations in the 90s, and replacement parts for that system are becoming increasingly challenging to procure. Elevator B has been the subject of some recent repairs, and it has failed several times in the past few months, requiring entrapment evacuation and emergency service calls. Thankfully, we haven't had members of the public get trapped in these elevators, but staff and volunteers unfortunately have had that misfortune, and we want to eliminate the possibility of any more of those types of entrapments or emergency service calls. At the time of the 2020 capital repair study, both elevators' finishes were deemed used up and 17 years past the point of their lifespan. So we are proposing that the controls and pumps, which are planned for replacement this year, would be updated, and that the pending legislative codes that will require remediation of issues also associated with the elevators would be addressed at that time. Given the scope, we anticipate that these projects will require competitive bidding and coordination, and we strongly recommend the board's support of proceeding with this work within fiscal year 26-27. Any comments about our special reserve fund expenditures, or plans rather, for this fiscal year? necessary. I like that.
Well, there's no denying, we don't want anyone trapped. And if they've outlived their useful life, we almost have no choice.
It's at that
Yeah.
point. I think we've squeezed every dollar we can out of those conveyances.
And then the carpeting and the change of the layout is not that much. And does need in your narrative, you say everything comes in through that service door.
We have one service door for this 70-some thousand square foot building, and we would benefit greatly from a revitalization of that space. It would help to improve some of our operational efficiencies. The other piece, and I don't have an estimate at this time, is while we've been able to incrementally deliver patron-facing outcomes in support of the goals that were related to our unrealized renovation project in 2025, we do have some lingering challenges in this building regarding its adaptability for modern staffing models. As constructed and renovated over the years, the majority of the building spaces have been allocated for collections and services, while staff workspaces have remained insubstantial to meet the growing service needs of our community. In fact, several of our staff offices are located in former closets or other converted spaces, and we have been adapting, but we really cannot continue to sustain this model. We really only have one space left in the building that we could subdivide at a lower cost in an effort to try to house additional staff and to provide better work environments for folks. And that is on the third floor, which was one of the last renovated spaces in the building about 10 years ago. So we are proposing, when the time is appropriate, that we would endeavor to work with either our construction partners at Shales McNutt or an office furniture vendor to help us subdivide the third floor in an effort to try to maximize the utility of that space and bring some additional staff into that area to improve their work environment and make for better efficiencies for staff. Like I said, I don't have any estimates about what that would be, but I really advise that we take some steps towards that here in the next year. And I can share more about that as we move forward if that gains traction with the board.
Okay. I know you've been creative as best you can. Some people are sharing offices on the first floor. Someone's in a closet. It's tight.
It's tight. Okay, that is
Very
the
good.
summary of our budget proposal. So the next step in the process would be for us to hold another finance committee meeting to continue the work that we've done in closed session, and then to make any further amendments that we may have to the draft budget as proposed this evening, and then we advance that budget for approval at the June 16th meeting, along with any of the attendant other service details that may come with that, including the revision of our operating hours for Friday evenings.
Any other questions for Director Austin? We had a lengthy finance meeting, so.
We did.
Appreciate everyone's time, and it continues. So we certainly want to get another meeting scheduled.
All right.
Okay, thank
And I
you.
want to thank the committee again for 3.5 hours of really productive work that we did on that Monday. Okay.
Well, you're still at the mic.
I'm
So
still
we'll
at the
have you
mic.
the director's report, and we'll allocate 10 minutes for that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'll keep it brief.
Okay,
All right,
appreciate it.
so I'll just give a couple highlights, and if there's anything in particular that you want to pull out, we can certainly do that. I also want to recognize that in my evaluation at the April meeting, the board did support that we can pull back a little bit from the narrative portion of the report that we've been doing over the course of the last few years. And I do think that you're seeing a little bit of that in this month's report as well. We will do what we can to enhance the presentation of the data so that we can create more of a dashboard in the coming year with more of the statistical information right at the ready, and then try to more broadly summarize the content that goes in the narrative. So statistically for this month, in April, we saw about 22,000 visitors, averaging 767 unique users each day. We welcomed 94 new cardholders in April, and we currently have 18,453 unexpired patrons, of which over 2/3 of those individuals have used their library card at the library for some physical service, whether a library or booking a study room or anything else that requires your library card at the library here in the last 6 months. So high rates of engagement and users of our current registered patrons. Our physical circulation did show a bit of decline again this month. However, that was offset by another spike in digital circulation, our third highest digital circulation on record again this month. In April, we added 1,600 new items, and we withdrew 1,900 items. So we're keeping pretty consistent with our one in, one out strategy with our collection maintenance. The big news and underlying story to all of this is that our intrepid technical services team has finally been able to affect the outcomes that we were looking for from our new book vendor this month. And we're finally ordering a backlog of book lists to finish our fiscal year on a strong note and with exciting new content for our soon-to-be-revealed new book room here in the next couple weeks. And that's really where I should spend most of my time this evening, is to tell you about the exciting changes that are finally coming to the library, almost a year in the making. We hope that it will become much more clear to everyone what all of our mini moves have been over the course of the last several months. So here's kind of a rundown broadly of what's going to be happening in early June. So on Monday, June 8th through the 9th, we are going to be demolishing the shelving units that are in the media room and reassembling them immediately below that space in the lower level north room, the space that was revitalized last fall. And we have contracted with Hallett Movers to complete that project for us. Staff has already begun to assemble some of those units, and so we've been able to save some of our costs there. And staff will also be pre-moving some of the collections that are associated with that move in an effort to help the whole thing move a little bit more efficiently. The following day, Tuesday, June 9th, we will begin the demolition of the media room carpeting. So that far northwest room on the first floor that currently houses our media collections, once empty of all of those furnishings, will be due for updated carpeting. So we'll be taking that almost 20-year-old carpeting out of that space, installing new carpeting, and then painting that area to give it a nice refresh. That should be completed by the end of that week. And then that following week, on Monday, June 15th, through we think that Thursday the 18th, we will see the installation of our new books room furnishings and the first floor slat wall that will help to promote those collections, boutique collections, and programs and services. So that's kind of what we're hoping by the end of that week. By June 18th or 19th, we will have a big reveal of what we've been planning with the new book space. So that new book room is going to feature all of the materials that most of the materials that you're currently finding in the recent arrivals area, which we're calling the fireplace area. So all of the newest acquisitions for the adult and teen collections. We'll also be having boutiqued collections that will go into the new books room. Our popular book club collection will be featured in that space, as well as a new twist on our popular Hot Picks collection, which has been growing. We are going to be rebranding it as our Lucky Day collection, and we'll share more information about that. A number of libraries are also calling that collection Your Lucky Day, because many of the items there have a very long holds list, and when you encounter it at the library, it is your lucky day. So we're updating some of our procedures and expanding that collection and presenting it in a really attractive way, in a way that we think that the fans of that collection are really going to appreciate how we've been able to update that space. So that's what's been really cooking for the new books room. The area that has been holding the new books all this time is also going to be enjoying a bit of a revitalization, and that's the area immediately adjacent to the recent arrivals, or what we're calling the recent arrivals area, the adult services desk. So we're going to call this the fireplace area. And that space will also feature some priority collections. The Library of Things will have more space allocated for that there and better display. All of the new media will be featured in this space, so you won't need to go to the lower level to get new media. We will also highlight portions of the media collection from below on displays in that space, particularly some of the family films. We'll also be dedicating a special local authors collection at some point here this summer. And there will also be some additional collections that will be displayed or featured in that area, along with some popular displays. The main goal of this, of the changes around the Adult Services Desk, is to provide a bit more of a cushion for the interactions that are happening at that public service desk. It's one of our busiest public service desks in the building, and right now it's so compressed with all the collections really tight up on it. We want to give the staff a little bit more space to interact with the public, and to allow the public to have, a bit more privacy when they're getting their information services resolved in that space. So all of this will help to promote that and to create, I think, a better experience for everyone in that area. So those are kind of the key highlights of what we're accomplishing with the collection revitalization project. There will be some additional tendrils that will relate to that. There are some furnishings that are going to be moving around still. We may be adding some additional furnishings either to that fireplace area, perhaps even to the new books room, moving some things still around the first floor. There's still some shelving units that we need to relocate, and some that need to come down as we start to enhance the tech area as well. But those are the main bits of work that are coming here in G just the next couple weeks. So by the time we meet next, there will be a lot of changes for you all to see in that space. Are there any questions about the collection revitalization project?
I know it takes a lot of coordination, and so thank you to you and staff that have worked so hard. The 900, well, what we used to call the 900s room.
The North Room, yep.
The North Room is now clean and fresh, and new carpeting, everything taken care of. So that is just waiting for all that legacy media. And all the bright area that will be right in the new book room should be lovely. So love to see. I hope we get some additional furnishings. I know we talked about the new recovered and fresh furnishings, the banquettes that are new fabric and a little stronger fabric too. So that looks great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other comments, or anybody have anything that they would like to say? Okay, great.
All right, so
Thank you.
very briefly, I'll add just 2 more points. I know I'm over my 10 minutes.
Okay.
We did
There's
add
no
some new
clock.
furnishings. So there are some brand new furnishings in our junior high area. If you go onto the 2nd floor, you will see that we've added some more tween appropriate seating in that space. And we've reallocated the tables, or the seats rather, that were in that space previously that look more like adult seats. So we're going to add those to other spaces in the building. So check that out. And then I will just add that in my report, you'll find that there are additional patron stories, program details, and statistics that are appended, and that also circulating here in the packet with patron comments is a draft of our exciting 3-month summer edition of the library newsletter, which will be hitting homes later this month. And that really features a lot of information about our summer reading clubs and the programs that are associated with that, which all begins on June 1st. And we're going to be celebrating the kickoff of summer reading on Saturday, June 6th, with our kickoff party on the lawn. And all of our summer reading programming and associated prizes are sponsored by the Friends of the Wilmette Public Library. And that concludes my report. And there will be free Kona ice for everyone.
That's a big hit.
It's a lot of fun
Yeah,
in
it's a big
past
hit.
years. Kudos to the committees or to the staff who have planned that. It's outside, it's a lot of fun. And the ice is a treat.
I have family members who like it a lot.
Look forward to that. Oh, good, good. Spread the word. Okay. Well, thank you. Very
Thank you.
exciting, and thank you for moving things along. Excellent. Appreciate that. All right. Our committee reports, ILA or Rails, and that's Trustee Senate, please.
Okay, so I attended the Rails Reaching Across Illinois Library Systems meeting on April 24th. This meeting was at the Founders Library at Northern Illinois University in DeKalb. And these meetings that take place on site or off site of Rails, There's usually a tour, there's usually a reason why the location, the venue is selected. I think Rails hadn't been to an academic library in a while, and so we went to NIU, and there were two things that were pretty significant about the tour, at least that I thought were significant, and I wanted to share in case anybody else is interested in these subjects. There's two special collections at NIU. There's a regional history center. NIU is the official historical repository. They collect the records from the 18 northern counties of Illinois, excluding Cook County. But that is where you go if you want to find out who the assessor was in 1956 or something like that. They have all of those records. It is a very rich source for genealogists, so much so that they actually have a fee-based research for people who aren't able to go out there and look at the records themselves. Also part of the history collection is a Horatio Alger collection, because they are also the official repository of the Horatio Alger Society. And there is an extensive dime novel collection of more than 30,000 items. So there's some things online. I don't know the extent of what's online, but I thought that was pretty interesting. The other very interesting collection that they have is their Southeast Asia collection. NIU was one of the training sessions for the Peace Corps when it first started. And the peer collections are at Cornell, Columbia, UC Berkeley, UCLA, University of Michigan, University of Wisconsin-Madison. So, you know, it was a little unexpected to find this collection at NIU. There's also a digital collection with all of the participating libraries. And we were able to see some things that I don't think you can just walk in and see, but they were kind of cool. They had this box with these palm leaves, and in very tiny, tiny handwriting, there was just writings that had been written by monks, and that was what these documents were. They were just these palm leaves, so that was kind of cool. For the meeting itself, the main things of topic were the ebook legislation in Illinois. That's Illinois House Bill 5236. Nothing has happened. I actually checked this morning since then. Just as a reminder, that is the one to have fair rates for what libraries pay for electronic resources. Rails was very involved with it, though, in the sense that the executive director from Rails did the presentation at the Consumer Rights Committee and has discussed the bill on Fox 32 Chicago Live. And there was also a Chicago Tribune front page article about it. After it passed through committee, it actually passed the House 99-0. It was unanimous. And so at the moment, it is undergoing legal review in the Senate. This is a taxpayer issue, and that is why it has so much support. Libraries are paying too much, as Director Austin has said many, many times. Just to give an idea, some of the statistics that the executive director discussed were that 20% of the items circulated in Illinois are ebooks, and most libraries pay more than 50% of their budgets for materials on those. I believe that we actually have a higher percentage of patrons who use ebooks. Isn't it 30%? Is that correct?
Mhm.
So, yeah, and so because right now what happens is it's a license, and so we don't own the book. We don't even own a digital copy of the book, and so over time, even over a year, having it just a few people take out a book, it becomes very, very expensive.
Which I think, I'll just say, which I think is actually a very misunderstood system, that people just think it's like making a copy, a digital copy, how easy. And so people feel that if there's a wait for an ebook, why is that happening? But it's because we have a budget and we, as you say, license ebooks. So it's not necessarily just, pull something off the internet. That's
Right.
much more, publishers have a much more control over that we don't have a control over.
So and then the other, there were some other bills, but there is another Rails meeting this Friday, and so there may be more to report next month.
Excellent, thank you. Great. And there's a note, the Intergovernmental Cooperation Committee that I know Trustee Senate has been
Yes,
rescheduled.
It has been
again.
rescheduled,
Yeah.
yes.
To,
Or it hasn't
June
been.
11th.
There's still, when is it?
We just learned
Is it-
today
oh,
that they're
it's on June
proposing
11th. Okay.
Thursday, June 11th for
Okay.
that meeting.
Excellent.
Okay, thank you so much. Moving on to communication and our information items. We have the suggestion box, notes, we'll pass that around. And the American Library Association Conference scheduled June 25th through 29th is here in Chicago. And so more information on United for Library programs and training opportunities for trustees, there is a link on our materials. So, any new business from anyone? All right. Seeing none, that I move that the board adjourn this meeting, and the time is now 7:31. A verbal, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We'll now adjourn at 7:31. Thank you.
Thank you.